Brian Sullivan is live in Rotterdam as part of a week-long series he's doing on Europe's energy crisis. So, Brian, what's the latest? What can you tell us? I think the tease yesterday was that we were going to talk about natural gas today.
Yep, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about specifically liquefied natural gas and the U.S.'s role in, and again, I don't think the word saving Europe or the phrase saving Europe is too strong, Becky, because without U.S. imported natural gas, Europe would be in a far more dire situation. We're literally on the water here in the port of Rotterdam. That is an LNG ship right behind us here. That is not some kind of, fake backdrop. That is real. Now, that is not from the United States. I looked up the name on marine traffic. That ship came from Norway, but that's an example of an LNG ship. And it just so turns out, Becky, that we have one just by the good graces of timing, another LNG ship coming around the bend here. This one is from Sweden, but we got a few coming from Texas. All right, why are we showing you this? Because here's the reality, is that the LNG business in the United States, Becky, pretty much didn't exist about 10 years ago. Liquefied natural gas, just kind of an idea, right? Cheniere, Tellurian, and a few others. Now you've got all these players. Berkshire Hathaway, you might have heard about this guy named Warren Buffett, Becky. I think you've met him a couple of times. He owns Cove Point, which is an LNG facility in Maryland, actually. And I looked it up. There's a ship from Cove Point that's due to come here in about a day or two. It's kind of in the Atlantic Ocean right now. You've got Cheniere, you've got Tellurian, you've got Venture Global, you've got Freeport LNG. Those two ones are private as well. And you got some smaller players in the industry, too, like New Fortress and Chart Industries as well. So all day here, we're going to talk about Europe's gas crisis side of the story, but try to come at it from a U.S. angle about how an industry that did not exist in large part just one decade ago is now literally helping to keep the lights and the heat on in Europe. And later on today, we'll talk about some of the analysts' favorite stocks in the group using price targets. A little math, a little gas, and definitely some boating here in Rotterdam.
It's a beautiful shot, but let's add, look, we're in Washington, D.C. this morning, Brian. Let's add the Washington component to this, too. There have been discussions in some areas, some political arenas, about potentially limiting or even banning exports of natural gas as prices have increased. What would that do to our allies in Europe when we are dealing with this war in Ukraine?
It would doom them. I mean, okay, do the math. So one of those ships behind us that we just showed here, that LNG tanker, one of those ships will heat and power about 300,000 American homes or European homes for a month. It's 1 million people, so take the household number. So again, the numbers here are very big, Becky. I don't want people to call me out on the math. It takes about 10 to 12 of those ships right over here to make 1 billion cubic meters. So if you want to heat and power, I don't know, 3 million homes for 6 months, you're going to need like 60 of those LNG ships. Europe needs our gas. By the way, I heard your lineup today from D.C. It's amazing. You've got Bechtel on. Bechtel is, I think, they can ask them, the biggest builder of LNG facilities. Ask them. They'll have an order book probably out 10 years. The LNG industry in America, they should be proud. Men and women in Texas and Oklahoma and Louisiana are sending gas here to Norway or Netherlands, which is going all throughout Europe. So really, Midland and Odessa, thank you. Our friends here in the Netherlands, right, Rick and Rudy, Wesley, they thank the American natural gas industry for keeping their lights on.